Let us talk UFC 283. Teixeira versus Hill. 2 title fights going down this Saturday in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Man, can't wait. Great card. Especially great main card. My God. Got Paul Craig, Johnny Walker, Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy, Gilbert Burns, Neil Magny. Figgy Moreno 4, folks.
When was the last time they were in Brazil?
Oh,
it's pre-pandemic, right? We haven't even touched it since 2020. Or since before 2020, I should say.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's got to be correct.
I'm
be
going
nice
to be excited.
back. I can't wait to hear that. Who vamos here? Who vamos here?
I was just going to say the same thing. It's been a long time, but I miss the Who Bought Mohead. Yeah, I miss it.
For sure.
Is this a normal time? Well, normal for us?
This is a fantastic question.
Yeah, we're almost the same time as Brazil. Time
It is
I think we might be 1 hour different than Brazil.
10 p.m. Eastern time.
Right now?
Yes.
Well,
No. I'm saying the fight is 10 p.m. Eastern time.
The main card.
Normal time.
The main card. Mm-hmm.
My point was that I think we're on a very similar time zone to Brazil, so it's not really different. But I guess because we're in daylight savings right now, we're 2 hours different. Usually I thought we were only 1 hour different. Right now we're 2.
Yes.
Okay.
In the eastern coast.
Let's see. We're going to discuss and pick, I believe, 7 of the fights on this card. It's a pretty lengthy card. Before we get into any of those fights, gentlemen, are there any fights or fighters that you want to spotlight for our listeners and viewers?
I will spotlight a couple real quick. I'm sure Mark has a couple other ones. One of them we might overlap, I would assume. Terrence McKinney is my first spotlight. Definitely watch out for him. Terrence McKinney is a phenom. His abilities and his performances have been nothing short of spectacular. He had a fuck up. That's going to happen early on, I feel like, in a lot of people's careers. I don't think it says anything about an overall future. I think his star is bright. His ceiling is high. I would expect nothing short of a fantastic performance from him in this card. So definitely watch out for him. He's on the early prelims. And the other one that I was looking at, we did put him on there. Okay, just wanted to make sure. The other one I wanted to highlight was the Warlley Alves-Nicholas Dalby fight. Yes. That fight is also a fantastic fight between both guys. Nicholas Dalby and Warlley Alves both have their own credentials. I think it's a little bit of a banger. Very curious as to why it's all the way at the bottom of the prelims, early prelims, but them be the breaks apparently in the UFC. So there it is.
Mark, any other names you want to point out?
Yeah, usually with the pay-per-views, we try to do the whole card for you guys, but this one had so many fights in the undercard where it was debutantes in the fight, so we kind of skipped ahead to the fights that matter a bit more. But the one that is not necessarily that is the one Omar just highlighted, which is Warlley Alves and Nicholas Dalby. I do like that fight a lot. These are two guys that have reached high heights at points. Dalby has that draw with Darren Till. Warlley Alves has the win over Colby Covington. So we have seen the talent that they possess. And this one's a tough one to call. I could see it kind of being Alves early or Dalby on the cards if he can get past the early part. But that's a great fight. I expect that to be a banger. And then I will highlight 2 brothers who are debuting, Ismael Bonfim and Gabriel Bonfim. Ismael's fighting Terrence McKinney. Gabriel is fighting Munir Lazez. They are both guys coming in with some hype who are names to watch. Gabriel is the one who most seem to think is the better one. They're both kind of getting thrown in against legit dudes in Terrence McKinney and Munir Lazez. So we will see how that goes for them. And then just 2 legit guys, again, who are on this undercard fighting. They're both fighting late replacements. Are Thiago Moises, who was supposed to be fighting Guram Kutateladze, which would have been fucking awesome, and Gregory Rodriguez, who was supposed to fight Brad Tavares. So they're both fighting late replacements, but they're both studs and guys to watch. And the dude Gregory Rodriguez is fighting is a guy who comes to bang. And if you know anything about Gregory Rodriguez, he will be ready. So that is not one you should get a snack during.
Facts.
Okay, well, let us begin. In the Heavyweight division. The featured bout on the early prelims on ESPN and on ESPN Plus and UFC Fight Pass. In the heavyweight division, Shamil Abdurakhimov, I'm butchering this, Abdurakhimov, whatever, taking on Jailton Almeida. Dropping shit.
You're a mess.
Have to include this one, guys, because Jailton Almeida, on our previous show previewing the 2023 calendar year, was a guy that we all had something to say about. So, Mark, let me start with you. Give us your take on this heavyweight bout and your prediction.
Yeah, he, if I remember right, he may have been our most top breakout prediction of all in terms of our unanimous guys. We all love the Jailton Almeida this year. And he is a minus 1,000 favorite in this fight, accordingly. Shamil Abdurakhimov is plus 600 as the dog. And, yeah, you know where we're going with this one. Shamil's a big dude, and he is absolutely the best fighter that Jailton Almeida has fought to this point. He will have a big weight advantage on Jailton, who has been coming into these heavyweight fights around like 220, because he's a guy who goes back and forth. But I don't think it matters. I don't think it stops Jailton from ragdolling him like he has done to everyone else. I think it's fairly academic. I think Jailton's such an athlete, and Shamil just will not be able to hang. I'll say maybe he could survive into round 2 just based off the size, that maybe it's a bit harder for Jailton to get him out of there. Granted, a round 1 finish would not shock me in the least. As I'm thinking about this, I want to say round 1 now. I could see it that he gets a couple good shots, an early takedown, and that because of the ground and pound, it actually opens up earlier than I was going to say. So I'm going to switch. I was going to say round 2. Yeah, I'm going to say some ground and pound from Jailton opens it up, and he can transition to a choke. Round 1, rear naked choke.
Omar.
Abdurakhimov has been getting destroyed for the last few years at this point. And Almeida has a certain type of momentum right now with the skill set that he has that would be ridiculous to pick against him. I'm very high on him. I think his ability is through the roof. I think his ground game is absolutely fantastic. His accuracy with the power that he has behind it, his striking is pretty damn great. But I think this one ends on the ground. I don't actually think he ends up getting a submission just because I don't think it'll take that much effort. And I think he ends up ground and pounding him out. Round 1, TKO.
We are in agreement. I'm taking Mr. Jailton Almeida by beast mode, first round. I'll say TKO. Pretty easy pick for me.
Facts.
Almeida's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yup.
Let's move on to the prelims card. The feature bout now on the prelims on ABC, ESPN, and ESPN Plus in the light heavyweight division. Mark, tighten that cap real quick. We have Mauricio Shogun Hua taking on Ihor Potieria. My goodness, this is a real throwback fight. Shogun Hua really needing no introduction at all. I will quickly say he is the 41-year-old out of Curitiba, Brazil, 27-13 as a pro with 1 draw, 27 knockouts. That's a 78% knockout rate. He's been around, and he has never really stopped. He has slowly been taking fights over the past few years. Most recently, a loss against OSP in May of last year. He lost that fight by split decision. Most recently his wins were over Nogueira. He drew against Paul Craig. He TKO'd Tyson Pedro. He TKO'd John Vellante back in 2017. He beat Corey Anderson. He's the man. Ihor Potieria, the duelist, the 26-year-old out of Kyiv, Ukraine. He's 18-3 as a pro with 8 knockouts, 6 subs. He is looking to get back in the win column after a TKO loss at the hands of Nikolai Negumarianu back in July. Omar, hit us first this time with your assessment real quick of this matchup. your feelings about Shogun Rua fighting at the age of 41, and ultimately your pick.
Shogun still fighting hurts my heart. Has hurt my heart for quite some time. At the same time, I do think that this is a fight that is winnable for him. I don't think I would have preferred somebody with a little bit more purpose behind it. We've talked about the
dual retirement fight idea of him and Lyoto Machida. Is that what you were going to bring up?
Lyoto Machida is who I was looking for, yes. So we've had our thoughts about the Lyoto Machida fight and potentially giving him somebody with a little bit more value behind their name, something with a little bit more legacy to it. But here we are. It's very possible that Mauricio is so far gone that this Potieria gentleman will be able to lay him out. I choose to believe otherwise. It is his last fight. I love Shogun. Shogun got me partially into MMA, watching a lot of his stomping destruction in Pride. He was one of the first championship fights I think I ended up watching live at the UFC when he fought Lyoto Machida the first time and beat the Christ out of Lyoto Machida, if I remember rightly. And then
the second time?
Yeah.
Right, that was when he busted his face, right?
Yeah, Machida edged
broke
him.
his whole orbital.
Machida
He edged him in the
on
first one.
scorecards in the first one.
Yep. Right. So I mean, I've got tons of. I've played with that man in the game. I can't even tell you how many times.
Fair.
So I've got tons of memories of Shogun. I've got memories of Ninja as well, his brother.
Yep.
So it's a legacy, man. It's a legacy.
Fighter.
It's something that we are going to stop watching at this point. And I think it's well deserved. The man has had an amazing career. He's had an amazing modeling career as well down in Brazil. I don't think he needs to do it for the money, but the fuck do I know? I'm just glad to see. I'm hopeful that he's got enough marbles left over to enjoy the rest of his life comfortably, and that he hasn't done so much damage that now it's going to significantly impact his quality of life. Because we all know Shogun got that name for a reason. That man has been in war after war after war after war. The fact that his face doesn't look like Vanderlei Silva's at this point is fucking a godsend.
Since he was a teenager.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been training and fighting in an area where training is fighting. So there was no holds bars down there. There wasn't pad work and we're fighting. Today we're fighting. And then tomorrow we fight somebody else.
I don't mean started MMA as a teenager. I mean like in Pride fighting as a teenager.
Oh yeah.
It's been a minute that this
yeah.
was in pro.
Yeah. So yeah, I've rambled on long enough. Mark, what are your thoughts here about
All right, so they made my man Shogun the dog. He is plus 175 despite the unprovenness of his opponent. I guess they think Shogun is that washed. Ihor Potieria is minus 220 as the favorite. This one sucks, to be honest. Such a whack, awful retirement fight for Shogun. I just hope he wins it. As you alluded to, it would have been so much cooler for this Shogun Machida idea that had been thrown out there in a double retirement fight in Brazil. I would have been so fucking into that. And instead we get this fight against Ihor Potieria, who means nothing to anyone. He's not even a big prospect that they're like trying to build. He may very well be nothing. Like his regional wins don't feature anything relevant. He got finished in his debut by Negomarianu. So we don't really know what he is yet, but maybe they're just trying to get Shogun to win. I'm not sure. But for as shop-worn as Shogun may look, he's still been in close fights. Like the Paul Craig fight was close, at least the first one. The OSP fight was close. It's not like he's in there to be beaten. So I'm hoping he can get one last victory and one last moment in Brazil here. It would be awesome if he could. And I am picking Shogun Rua by round one knockout via soccer kicks. And before you get in the comments and tell me that soccer kicks aren't allowed, I fucking know that. But Shogun Rua, round one soccer kicks is how this fight ends. Because that's how it ends in my dreams, and I'm not picking anything else. Shogun Rua, pride never die.
That's how it is in my dreams. And you don't give up on your dreams, kids.
I will be the contrarian here.
Fuck you.
I do not like this matchup. I do not like this matchup. As much as I wish that I could join you in retirement, like nice feelings land. There are better matchups for this guy's retirement fight. So I just see Potieria being just too young, too strong, too big for the aging Shogun, and I'm going to say that he's going to get him out of there in the first round. I'll say by TKO. I think he's going to hurt him. Wow. We're going to see Shogun, his legs give out, and Potieria is going to swarm him, and the ref is going to have to intervene. Round 1, TKO.
Boo this man.
Potieria.
How does that knife? How does that knife feel in your back, Mark?
Terrible. My real pick is Shogun decision, by the way.
Okay.
That is also my pick. Is Shogun decision. I would love for him to walk off with a knockout, though.
God, oh my God, it'd be amazing.
Of course.
Amazing.
Okay, next up, one of Shogun's most recent opponents, a man who he has tied and a man who has beaten Shogun. That is Paul Craig, taking on Johnny Walker in the light heavyweight division. Fun fight, great matchup. Paul Craig, of course, the 35-year-old out of Scotland. Bear Jew is his nickname, which we've mentioned on this show before. He is 16-5 with 1 draw, 3 knockouts, 13 submission wins on his record. He's most recently coming off of a UD loss at the hands of Volkan Ozdemir, looking to get back in the win column. Ozdemir snapped a 4-fight win streak for Bear Jew. Standing across from him in the octagon will be Johnny Walker this Saturday night, the 30-year-old out of Rio, the hometown boy this time. He is 19-7 as a pro with 15 knockouts on his professional record, and he is coming off of a win over Ian Cutelaba by rear naked choke. Mark, let's start with you this time. Give us your assessment and your pick of Walker versus Bear Jew Craig.
All right, so your favorite here by almost 2-1 is Johnny Walker. He is minus 195. Paul Craig is plus 160 as the underdog. I never imagined I would be saying this about a Johnny Walker fight, but I don't have any trouble picking him here. He has a 3-inch height and a 6-inch reach advantage, and the size, the strength, and the athleticism that he has, I think, are all just a built-in counter to Paul Craig's game. Like, is Walker sloppy enough at times for Craig to still catch him in something somehow? Yes, 100%. Craig is slick as fuck. We know this. But Johnny Walker can grapple himself. Look at what he just did in his last fight against Iwan Cutelaba. So it's not like he's some slouch down there. And I just think the physicality is a big hurdle for Paul Craig to overcome. I really think the size and the strength are going to play a big factor in limiting what Paul Craig is able to pull off in terms of the grappling, and I think he eventually gets caught. And on the feet, Johnny Walker can be pretty damn free because there's no danger coming back at him. And a guy who's that creative and that big and that powerful, getting to be free with his strikes for the most part, I don't think goes well for Paul Craig. So for the first time in ever, I'm actually confidently picking Johnny Walker to win a fight. Give me him by round 2 knockout.
Omar, what's your take and your pick?
So, I do think this is a tough matchup for Craig. I do think the exposure to the high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that Johnny Walker has makes this not as much of a slam dunk as I think some of the other ones have been, even in times where Craig has been losing. Like, those opportunistic submissions, I think, make a lot more sense with guys who maybe that's not really their bread and butter or have been, again, exposed to some of the elite grappling of the world. With all that being said, I'm going to go against Mark on this one. I think that Paul Craig is just pretty nasty. If you watch the Ozdemir fight, his biggest problem was getting him down to the ground. And I don't think he's going to have that problem with Johnny Walker. And a part of me thinks that Johnny Walker fucks around so much in that cage that it's very possible that something sloppy or something ridiculous gets him down to the ground. And Paul Craig doesn't need much generally when he gets you down to the ground and you start playing in his game. So I think he comes away with it. I'm going to go with submission round 3.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I love the resiliency of Paul Craig. He is never out of the fight. I have always liked the size and athleticism of Johnny Walker for the weight class. I would have loved it if he didn't fuck around so much earlier on and got knocked out by Corey Anderson. And he has now only won 2 of his last 6 fights. I still don't fully trust Johnny Walker.
Same.
But his performance over Cutelaba has given me enough wind in the sails to say that. And also, he just got married. He's got married to that girl. So I want to say, Omar, I think you pointed this out about somebody else last episode. About like Dad Cerrone and Dad somebody else.
It was about Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, it was about Pennington.
Dad Pennington. I think, excuse me, Mom Pennington. Maybe husband Walker is going to be a little more settled down, and he's just going to stop trying to clown around and be a little bit more of a, I don't know, workman-like in there and just trying to get the win. And he should get the win in terms of his attributes. I will say Johnny Walker by 3rd round knockout.
The difficulty is I don't find Ion Cutelaba at that point in Johnny Walker's career a significant name to work too much off of, right? Because
yeah, sure.
we've seen Johnny Walker get, like, first of all, fight boring and fight tentatively and fight from the outside and not take any chances and basically spend an entire fight being extremely boring. And now we've also seen against Ion Cutelaba that he can run somebody over. So we've seen his extremes, and at this point, it's also kind of where he shows up, how he shows up. You know what I mean? If he kind of plays the point fighting game and doesn't really advance too much, you know, it might work in his favor considering, you know, Paul Craig isn't really trying to play that game and can't really play that game either. Paul Craig is going to want to crash and come inside. So it all really depends on which Johnny Walker decides to show up.
100%. All right, moving on over to the ladies' flyweight division. Lauren Murphy taking on Jessica Andrade. Lauren Lucky Murphy, 39 years old, out of Anchorage, Alaska. 16-5 as a pro, 8 knockouts on her record. Coming off of a decision win over Misha Tate. Before that, she challenged for the belt in a losing effort against Valentina. Before that, she rode a 5-fight win streak into that title fight. Jessica Andrade, the 31-year-old out of Brazil, 23-9, 9 knockouts, 8 subs on her record, coming off back-to-back wins over Cynthia Calvillo and Amanda Lemos back in April. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick for Lauren Murphy against Jessica Andrade.
All right, so I knew she'd be favored. I didn't think she'd be favored like this. Jessica Andrade is minus 500. Lauren Murphy is plus 370. Lauren Murphy is certainly the bigger girl here. She's got 4 inches of height. She has a 6-inch reach advantage. She, in her last fight, I thought looked the best she has ever looked against Misha Tate. She always manages to make her opponents look worse than they are. She is a strong girl. She is durable. And I don't think any of that matters. I rate Jessica Andrade that highly. It doesn't matter if she's at 115 or 125. I do like her more at 115, but I think she's fine here. And I just think she is a higher level fighter than Lauren Murphy in every way. I don't mean that she's going to run Lauren over because, like I said, Lauren is durable. And she's a vet, and she kind of knows how to survive in there. But I think Jessica Andrade wins at least 2 of these rounds, if not all 3 rounds. I think the speed is a factor. I think the power is a factor. I think Murphy even may have a hard time hitting her at times just because of the difference in the athleticism. Give me Jessica Andrade by a clear UD.
Omar?
So I think for this fight, for me, Jessica Andrade is the clear pick. Did you guys know what her nickname is? Because I just looked it up and I had no idea what this was.
But
Estaca?
Do you guys know what it means?
It's not.
I'm trying to remember what it means. I was gonna say fire hydrant, but that's not it. I'm thinking of Paul Harris's fire hydrant.
It means
No, I know it. It's yes. I was just gonna say it because I always associate pile driver with when she pile drive throws Namajunas.
What a great fucking nickname.
Yeah,
What an absolutely solid nickname. Yeah. Anyway, I think Andrade is better everywhere. I think she's stronger everywhere. Lauren Murphy, if nothing else, is a worker. That woman puts on some work rate when she's in there. Strikes volume. Excuse me. The volume in her strikes is very high. Her forward pressure is very, very demanding. You can see what she ended up doing to Miesha Tate in that octagon, which I don't know. I definitely didn't see any of that coming. So, Lauren Murphy is definitely not a gimme fight, I think, in that specific sense. However, Jessica Andrade's pedigree, both in the wrestling and with her heavy strikes, it's nothing to be sneezed at. And the girl has championship competitiveness. She's been in there. She's held the belt. She's lost the belt. She's got a certain set of experience and a certain set of skills that I think make her. I think that minus 500 is pretty damn accurate as to where she should be in terms of the odds. I think she hurts Lauren Murphy. I think it happens in the middle of the fight, and I think she ends up finishing her by the third round. TKO.
like it.
I don't think I'm alone here, but I have never rated Lauren Murphy super high. But the girl wins.
Yeah.
Yep.
She just wins. Before Valentina, the last time she lost was 2018.
To Sarge.
Granted, a couple of those wins could have been arguable in that stretch.
True. That is true. But yeah, I agree. Totally agree. I think I fully expect Andrade to outshine Lauren Murphy here in pretty much every department. And I think that Murphy is tough enough to last. She's only been knocked out once. She's never been subbed. So I will say Andrade, 3 rounds, unanimous decision. Easy pick for me. What are the odds again?
Minus 500 for Andrade.
Okay.
370 for Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the main event. This could easily be probably a main event of a fight night on its own.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
We have Gilbert Burns facing off against Neil Magny in the welterweight division. Gilbert Burns, 36 years old, out of Brazil, hometown guy in this fight, 20-5 as a pro, coming off of that amazing fight, which was a losing effort for him against Khamzat Chimaev. He'll be standing across the Haitian sensation Neil Magny, out of Brooklyn, New York. He is 27-9 as a pro, coming off a win against D-Rod back in November. Omar, let's start with you. Give us your take and your pick. Magny versus Burns.
I love this fight. The thing I think is super interesting at this point is Neil Magny has had his run-in with Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Gilbert Burns has had his run-in with Khamzat, sort of the two prodigies of the division currently. Well, at least of the... Rakhmonov is a middleweight, specifically a middleweight, right? Or is he also a welterweight?
No, he's a welterweight. That's why he fought Neil Magny.
Right. Khamzat has made things very difficult for me as to where fucking people are at this point.
Chimaev is the tweener.
Yes.
But yes, that definitely makes sense. So I think it's interesting that they both kind of had fought these prodigies that have been up and coming in the welterweight division. We know that we've talked about Neil Magny kind of being the best of the gatekeepers, the best thing about gatekeepers, making sure that we're getting real contenders in the welterweight division. When you beat Neil Magny, that definitely means something. His name carries weight, it carries value. Gilbert Burns is another man I think you could say all those same things about, if not more. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pedigree, I think, is quite unmatched in MMA at this point, especially with Damian Maia no longer in the mix, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that dude's here anymore, right? Like, I didn't mix.
No.
He's gone. Okay. So, I mean, Gilbert Burns' pedigree at this point when it comes to that skill set, I think, is quite unmatched. You've got people like Charles Oliveira and maybe a small handful of folks. But I think Neil Magny's got his fucking hands full here, like, everywhere. Gilbert Burns' striking is very, very effective, very difficult, very heavy-handed, and his ground game, like I just said, is ridiculous. Neil Magny, I think, is a master of the fundamentals, if nothing else. But I think Gilbert Burns is so skilled in the ground game that I think he goes beyond the fundamentals, and I think it catches up to Neil Magny. So I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns, submission, round 3.
Mark, take it.
All right, so Gilbert is a big favorite. He is minus 475. Neil Magny is plus 350.
Yes.
As usual for Neil, actually even more so in this fight because of the stature of Gilbert. There's a big size advantage. Gilbert, remember, is a former lightweight. Neil's going to have a 5-inch height and a 9-inch reach advantage, and that's a lot. So my question on this fight is, will Gilbert Burns grapple? Because I fear a little bit that he feels like he needs to make a statement to get back in the title picture in this welterweight division. You kind of have Chimaev, who's moved past him. You have Colby getting thrown around to possibly fight Chimaev. Obviously, you have Leon and Usman fighting for the title. Gilbert seems pissed that Bilal has moved above him in the rankings. So I hope he doesn't come in thinking he's got to do something spectacular, not to mention he's in Brazil. So I could see him coming out hot. It wouldn't shock me if he came out headhunting. And I'm not saying he can't win that way, because he can. And he is certainly the more heavy-handed of the two. But I just think that is not the path of least resistance that he could be taking, because as good of a grappler as Magny is in his own right, I still think the route to take for Gilbert Burns here is to go to the grappling. And we've seen Neil Magny hit walls in the grappling against the highest level of grappler, and that's exactly what Gilbert Burns is. So for Gilbert to go in there and play with a 9-inch reach is just not the game that I want to see him playing. If he does, I think this fight becomes kind of more coin-tossy than it has to be. I'd like to think Gilbert's power could still swing it, but I could see the jab being an issue for him, just like straight punches. Sometimes Gilbert gets kind of stuck on the end of jabs. But I'll say he comes in and fights smart. I think he does kind of feel that he just needs to make sure he gets a win and stays in the mix here. So I think he'll come in and grapple. I could see him even finish Magny down there. I think Omar actually just picked a sub, so obviously you think that too. I could see it as a sub. I could even see it as him like trapping Neil and raining shots down on him. I'm torn on if I want to say a finish, but I'll say it is a decision win for Gilbert Burns.
Hey, rattle off the odds real quick again.
Gilbert minus 475, Magny plus 350.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
Tempting odds, in my opinion, because I feel like it's closer than that.
I agree. I didn't think it'd be that wide.
375 for Magny is
minus 400 for Burns.
pretty good pretty good value though.
Yeah, you have 4.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not a betting man, but I've heard words like sprinkle. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Listen, this is a tough fucking fight for me to pick, man. Don't fucking sleep on Neil Magny.
Never.
Spoiler alert, I think I'm gonna go with Gilbert Burns. I loved your whole assessment, Mark. I think he would be smart to lead on his strength here. Neil Magny is no slouch anywhere. And I hate to be a copycat. I'm going to copy your pick, Mark. I think Gilbert Burns, in a 3-round fight, he is going to win enough exchanges, enough scrambles, and enough moments on the ground to get a unanimous decision victory. Poor Magny, man. Poor Magny, this fucking guy. Isn't he like the winningest fighter in UFC history?
Yeah, right, isn't he? Or in welterweight history, I think it is.
Welterweight
yeah,
history.
welterweight, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is his one, dude. Like, this is the breakthrough if Neil Magny could win this fight.
Yes, well said.
So, big opportunity for him here, for sure.
All right, boys. Let's go on to the co-main event of
You can't
UFC
really call
283.
him. You can't really call him a gatekeeper if he wins this fight anymore, right?
Yeah,
He's
Absolutely. Yes.
Kind of walked away from the gate at that point.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
He went through the gate, is what he
Walked
did.
into the
Yeah,
kingdom.
walked right through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, co-main event time, boys. And a fight that I have to admit I think could have been the main event of this card.
Yeah, I think it should have been, personally. I think
Yeah.
they should be flip-flopped.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. It is Figueiredo Moreno 4. These two have fought 3 times before. And for Figueiredo, Moreno is all 3 of his last 3 opponents. The last time Figueiredo fought somebody not named Brandon Moreno was in 2020 when he fought Alex Perez. Okay, so Figueiredo, the current champ, 35-year-old, out of Para Brazil. He's 21-2 with 1 draw, 9 knockouts, 8 submissions, coming off of that win in that third match against Moreno, in which he won by a unanimous decision. Moreno, the much beloved 29-year-old out of Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. He's 20-6 with 2 draws, 4 knockouts, 11 subs. He's coming off a win against Kai Kara France, which he finished him with a nasty body kick, followed up by punches in the 3rd round back in July. So the first 3 fights of these guys. The first one was a draw. The second one, Moreno finished Figueiredo. And in the third one, Figueiredo won by UD. Figueiredo, interestingly, who is much more, you would say, is the juggernaut of the two, has never finished Moreno, but Moreno schooled him in that second fight, finishing him in the 5th round. That's one of my favorite fights ever.
Yeah.
Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of this amazing co-main.
All right, I might talk for a minute here, and I would guess Omar is going to as well. The slight favorite is the challenger, Brandon Moreno, minus 120. Deiveson Figueiredo is plus 100, even money. We are flipping a coin here. The odds agree. We know this already. We've seen these guys do this 3 times before. Of course, I could see this fight going either way. But I can't get myself to go any other way than with Brandon Moreno. And really, there's plenty of reasons to go the other way. The coaching is such a factor. Figgy, I thought, looked really good after training with Cejudo in his next fight. I would imagine he's only even more improved now with more time over at Fight Ready. Moreno, as we know, has lost his coach in James Krause, had to join a new team, adjust on the fly. That's not super ideal. Figgy's getting a hometown fight in Brazil, crowd behind him. He may get a huge surge from that. Plus, the hometown judging in Brazil is always a thought if we get another very close fight. So there are plenty of reasons to talk yourself into picking Deiveson Figueiredo here. And obviously, he won the most recent fight between these two guys. But to me, Brandon Moreno has won more of this trilogy than he has lost. As Mike said, he's the only man with a finish. So despite the trilogy being 1-1-1, Moreno's actually ahead in my book because of the fact that he has a finish in this trilogy. And I truly feel as though he has been the better fighter for more minutes of these fights. Like, Figgy has needed some big moments and some big shots that change the fight and that steal the round. And, of course, he can get those again. But I just can't pick against the guy that I feel like has been the better fighter over more time in more moments and is less reliant on needing something big to win rounds. So I'm going to go Moreno here. Plus, it's been a year off for Figgy, and he is the older fighter. He is the one with the harder weight cut, which we're already hearing rumblings about.
Have you seen the picture?
So, no, I didn't see the pictures. Rough?
I'll send it to you. I don't know what he's cutting. What else is there? There's 2 days left. Well, I guess.
And he looks
It's
gutted
still
already.
2 days. He looks like he should have already weighed in.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, I will go with Brandon Moreno. I will say Brandon Moreno, unanimous decision, champ once again.
Wow. Omar, when you get done sending us this scary image, give us your take and weigh in.
You guys know that There's no way in hell I pick against Moreno. It just doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. That's my man's right there. He's one of the bigger nerds in the UFC roster.
God.
Yeah.
What is he cutting?
They are currently, for those of you listening, they are currently just getting the video of.
Oh, wait. How many pounds are left on him right now?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
How is he alive?
You can check the caption. I don't know.
Bro, he looks awful.
But here's what I know.
Can I put this in the camera? Yeah.
A full
His
2
veins.
You can't
his
really
veins
tell,
are
actually,
already
'cause of the
coming
glare.
out.
It looks like he's just ripped, but if you could see the actual veins, it's bad.
Yeah, his veins are visible.
You can
at
see the
this
veins
point.
in his chest.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left to cut. I don't understand what else there is.
This might not happen. You can see all the. veins
That's
in
what
his
everybody's
arms.
saying. That's what everybody's saying is that they're not gonna. He's not gonna make it to the fight. That's.
I mean, this reminds me of
the
last time I saw a
speculation.
guy like.
I
this
mean,
was-
it might be that they still fight, but that he's stripped and only
he can't
Moreno
get
can
the
win the
belt.
belt.
yeah, that can happen too.
Sorry, Mike, I
Figueiredo's
think I
the
took
worst,
for
bro.
you.
No, it's all good.
Sorry.
Keep going, Omar. Give us your.
Fuck, he looks horrible. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's not great. It's not great. Had he looked like that on weigh-in day, we could get through it. I guess that'd be one thing. But it's fucking this. He looked like this Wednesday afternoon. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, skill for skill, I love Brandon Moreno. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded. The biggest difference, though, that you're always going to find between these two is Figueiredo carries the power advantage by far. When Figueiredo lands a punch, usually Brandon Moreno is found himself with his ass on the ground, needing to struggle to get back up. Brandon Moreno, though, however, is very skilled and very technical, very good with the volume, very good with the weight. I mean, he lands power as well. It's just that the differential is very, very far apart from one another. The reactions are not the same. The impacts are not the same. But Moreno does work, and Moreno has shown that he can damage Figueiredo and put him into terrible positions. I think really where we're at with this quadrilogy.
Yep.
Sure.
All right.
That's the right word. Quadrilogy.
Oh, it is really.
Yep.
All right. So where I think we're at right now with this is we've seen Figueiredo not be at his best according to him, right? And that was the fight that Moreno took over. We've seen them kind of clash to the point where it was a draw, very difficult decision to come out of. And then we've seen another third fight out of them where, in my opinion, Brandon Moreno won that fight.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think Brandon Moreno won that fight.
I don't remember what I thought, to be perfectly honest. I think I thought Moreno won as well.
But we continue
I
to
gotta look.
live in a world where it's still very disputed in the undisputed championship world, right? Like, we still are not 100% sure, because as far as I'm concerned, Moreno was the only one who put a stamp on his performance when it came to winning that fight. So we go to a fourth one. We're probably going to need a fifth one by the time this series is all said and done. But your boy's going with Brandon Moreno. I'm going to go by decision.
You guys know I love Brandon Moreno,
Don't do it.
but I'm going Figgy.
You're the worst.
And here's why. I mean, look, seeing this image of him makes me want to change my tune, but this is what my pick was coming into the show, so I'm going to stay with it for now.
Mark, I think you took the knife out of your back and stuck it in mine.
I did think Figgy won the last fight. I have all my notes in Excel, so I was able to scroll back to that event.
Oh, wow. I feel like the power that Figueiredo carries, Moreno has to have a perfect night to beat Figueiredo, like he did in the second fight. Like, the planets have to align for Moreno more so than for Figueiredo. Figueiredo just has the kinds of tools and weapons where he can have not the best night and still catch Moreno and either finish him potentially, even though he hasn't done that yet. But of course he still could. He could finish anybody at 125 pounds. Or just, land the more damaging shots and walk away the victor. And I think that Moreno, I'm just going to circle back and say the same thing. I think Moreno kind of has to have the perfect night in order to win. Could he? Of course he could. He already has. So for that reason, I'm going with Figueiredo to win this one. I will say he's going to win it again by UD.
Moreno has never been stopped in his professional career. Deiveson Figueiredo will not be that man. Fuck that.
Okay. All right, main event time, and then it's bedtime.
Yeah, seriously.
Main event.
Wait. By the way, Brandon Moreno has been stopped. Are you including submission? Are you saying
In his professional career?
Well, Pantoja tapped him on tough. I don't know if you want to count it.
Tough be exhibitions, dog.
Tough doesn't count. That's right.
Tough don't count.
Not on his official record, but it counts for something.
Yes.
Well, yeah, he still got his ass choked out by Pantoja. The memory is always going to be there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the L is not on his permanent pro record.
Fair.
Okay, main event time. Let's get into this very interesting
Let's
fight.
do it.
Light heavyweight title fight. Teixeira versus Hill. Glover Teixeira, the 43-year-old out of Brazil. His record stands at 33-8 with 18 knockouts and 10 subs on his record. He's coming off of a loss, an epic, a classic against Yuri Prohaska back in June of 2022. A fight that he ultimately lost in the last moments of the 5th round. It was an amazing fight back and forth. Of course, Glover made history taking the belt off of Jan Blachowicz back in October of 21. Man, there's so much to say about Glover Teixeira, man. What a career this guy's had. Win or lose or draw this Saturday night, what a career. Standing across from him at the octagon, in the octagon, a guy who is going to try to answer the opportunity that is in front of him. Jamahal Hill, Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, my backyard here. His record is quite different from Teixeira's. His record stands at 11-1-1. That is 11 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest. Of his 11 victories, 7 have come by way of knockout, and he is riding a fantastic 3-fight win streak coming into this title fight, finishing all 3 opponents, Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, and Thiago Santos. Okay. Omar, let's start with you this time. Give us your assessment and ultimately your pick of this very interesting title fight.
I'm a huge Jamahal Hill fan. I'm a huge fan of his fighting. I love what he brings to the octagon. This is one of those guys when I was talking about, guys like Sean Strickland who don't necessarily present that finishing power, that finishing instinct, the ability, whatever you want to call it. Jamahal Hill does not have that problem. Jamahal Hill goes in there and fucking zips things right up, buttons everything up, dots every I, crosses every T, knocks out every person. He's had one decision in the UFC, which was early on in his, right after his Contender Series finish on the Contender Series finish. Mm-hmm. Then came into the UFC, had his debutante moment where we see a lot of guys with a lot of promise come in with with a decision, something a little bit more lackluster than we're used to. Lights and nerves get to them and things like that. We saw it with Tatsuro Taira during his UFC debut, and then his next fight fucking demolished this kid. So I think we see the same thing with Jamahal Hill. I think he's had a fantastic run so far. I think his momentum is fantastic. The Paul Craig one, he got caught. He was working Paul Craig and he got caught, and it like ripped his arm out and ended up getting beat on until the referee pulled him apart. But Jamahal Hill is a real problem, man. He's a real problem. He's young, he's powerful, he's skilled, and he is not afraid to get into a fight. Glover is, I think, at a point now. Glover has never looked like somebody who enjoys getting hit. He's a man who is constantly trying to work from within a shell, for better or worse. And I think the thing that messes him up when he gets into these firefights is he doesn't have a safe way of getting out of them. His reaction and his intent seems to be, I'm going to turtle up, defend as as best as I can and try to land a counter somewhere in this barrage. We've seen Glover take a lot of damage in situations like that. I think Jamahal Hill is too much of a sniper for that to last. I think Jamahal Hill sleeps Glover round 1 KO.
Wow. You think Jamahal Hill does what Yuri couldn't do?
I do. And I think for one reason. Yuri is a wild motherfucker. Yuri is like a more controlled version of Johnny Walker. But the man is still button mashing half the time. You could see him just, he flows, which I give him credit for. That when I say he flows, it's, his movements don't seem very rigid. He wherever he ends up, he's going to attack from there. He's not going to reset, go back to a fighting position. If he overthrew his elbow, well, fuck, I'm going to throw a back elbow then because I'm still moving.
He's a little bit of like a drunken master style.
Yes, he is very creative in there for sure. And I think that's what makes him the most difficult is his flowy ability. I think Jamahal Hill, though, is just more accurate, more precise, more intent on what he's trying to do as opposed to a Yuri who kind of goes with the flow, if you will. And like I said, I think Jamahal Hill's he sees the bullseye. He sees the target.
Yeah.
I don't trust Glover's defense enough with somebody like that to survive for much longer because Jamahal Hill is a fast starter and we've seen him sustain for rounds. Not 5, I don't think. But we have seen him sustain for a few rounds. So, 4 and change. Or I guess 3 and change, technically. So, I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill. Like I said, KO, round 1.
Okay, Mark, you're up.
So, I guess after hearing that breakdown, I should not be as surprised as I am. But I was very surprised to see Jamahal Hill as the betting favorite in this fight.
Hey.
He is minus 135. Glover is plus 110.
So somewhat close.
Oh, yeah, very close. Definitely very close. I just did not ever think I'd see Hill on the minus side of things, but here he is. So I don't know how it started. I'm curious if it started the other way and bettors, made it move this way or if they had always said it with Hill as the favorite. But, yeah, I'm surprised to see that. And I guess I do get it, even before listening to what Omar just said. Because Glover Teixeira does get hit, and Jamahal Hill does throw fucking kill shots with accuracy. So I get it. And Hill's going to be the bigger guy by a bit. He's got 2 inches of height. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage on Glover. I'm sure that helps. He has absolutely been making significant improvements to his game. And, yeah, as I said, the accuracy is a big component for Jamahal Hill because Glover has kind of made a living off of eating some shots and being able to survive and adjusting, especially early in fights. And if he's getting hit with Hill's power, clean, accurate round 1, I could see it go south. But, God, I just don't see how Glover Teixeira doesn't take him down and put him in trouble. Like, we saw Thiago Santos take Jamahal Hill down 6 times. And Glover Teixeira ain't Thiago Santos. Not even close. And I know Jamahal Hill has been training with Anthony Smith now and working on the grappling, and Smith is trying to give him some tips. But as Glover showed us very convincingly, he ain't Anthony Smith either. He made light work of Anthony Smith. He destroyed him in ways that were uncomfortable on the ground.
He apologized. He apologized to him for how bad he was kicking his ass.
Yes. So this man is a whole other level of grappler. And I personally just think the advantage is too big. Like, Hill is a southpaw. I could see Glover just being able to grab that lead leg for the single leg all day. And like I said, maybe Glover has to endure some things in round 1. I would say if I was on the Glover side of things as a fan, really I'm split as a fan in this fight, or betting wise, yeah, I'd be nervous in round 1. I could see Glover having to endure a bit and maybe tough it out before he can truly get to work. But he has shown us that he has a chin. Like, let's be honest, he's proven this time and time again, no matter how old he's gotten, that he can still take these shots. And on top of that, Glover can box too. He's got hands for days. Maybe not as dangerous as Hill as a knockout artist, but enough to hang, in my opinion. So a big spotlight in Brazil for Glover, and I think he ends up basking in it and wins back this title. I just think by late round 1 or at least into round 2, this thing starts hitting the mat, and it doesn't really stop, and eventually we're headed home with Glover taking the belt. I will say round 3 submission win for Glover Teixeira.
Glover should retire if he wins this fight. I mean, how beautiful would that be?
That would be dope.
Yeah, that would be. Would never get the rematch with Yuri, but
Oh, and I wanted to say, think about the fact that Glover Teixeira is training with Alex Pereira every day, and you're not getting better striking looks than that. So I think that helps as well.
Yeah.
all good points. I am torn for this one. I feel like Jamahal Hill is a budding star on the roster. He clearly is a guy with a big personality. He doesn't mind being in front of a camera. He doesn't mind trying to be humorous or charismatic. In fact, he really seems to lean into it, which is really nice. I really like him as a new personality in the sport. And I'm kind of rooting for him to win, to kind of have that passing of the guard moment, because let's face it, Glover, if not this fight, at some point very soon, he's going to be or should be stepping away from the sport. And I want Jamahal Hill to kind of have his moment of ascendancy in terms of like true elite status. Having that 205 belt wrapped around his waist would really just catapult him even more so. The tough part, as Mark alluded to, if Thiago Santos took him down that many times, and if Paul Craig caught him in a slick submission. Now, while Paul Craig is a much more, I'll say, like a athletic jiu-jitsu player, Glover is just, you do not want that guy on top of you ever. He's not the guy who's going to throw up athletic triangle chokes or arm bars, but his knowledge of jiu-jitsu, his mechanical knowledge is just too much. And Jamahal Hill, he only has 13 fights on his whole record. It really gives me a lot of pause. I'm going to go against my better judgment here. I'm going to take Jamahal Hill. Wow. I don't know why. I shouldn't.
So you sound so disappointed in yourself.
It's more of a feel pick. I just feel like it's his moment. I'm worried that Glover is going to be like, there's no Santa Claus kind of a performance. But I'm banking on, I guess, the mileage, the beating that Glover took from Yuri in that fight, and his age, hoping that he slows down a bit. Not hoping. I love the guy. He's fucking amazing. And that Jamahal Hill, I think he also is going to be bringing a lot of confidence and self-belief into this fight. And I'm going to say it's going to be his moment. I think he's going to win by knockout. I'll say round 1 with Omar. Fuck.
Wow. Yeah, if it comes, I think it comes early. I do think that.
He knows how
to fight. He knows how to fight, man.
I see Glover like against the cage, like doing his Glover thing, and just gets right through, pops him on the chin, and just Glover's legs just give out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me. I could see it.
Yep.